Hey guys, today we're going to take a quick look at the GAN 356R. Before we start this video, I'd like to give a huge shout out to the sponsor D-FantiX. D-FantiX is a cube seller through Amazon, and it's my #1 place to go for buying speed cubes. For me, the main advantage of D-FantiX over other cube sellers is the fact that they operate through Amazon, so I can get that really nice Amazon Prime 2-day shipping. I don't know about you guys, but when I order a cube, my least favorite part is just waiting for it to come in the mail. Fortunately, with D-FantiX through Amazon, when I order it, I know for a fact that it's going to be at my house 2 days later, and that's just a huge plus for me. So the GAN 356R came out with the GAN 356X, and it was kind of promoted as a budget option. Now this is kind of surprising for GAN because GAN is kind of like the Apple of the cubing world. They make quality products, but they're definitely more on the expensive side, and a lot of people think that they're overpriced. So the fact that they're making a cheaper cube is kind of surprising to a lot of people because they weren't expecting GAN to do something like that. Now obviously a big difference is the 356R does not have magnets like the 356X. Another big difference in why this one is a lot cheaper than the X is this doesn't come with any of the customization options that the X does. The X comes with GES springs and magnets that you can swap out and really customize that cube to be exactly how you want it. The R comes with none of that. It doesn't have any magnets, it doesn't have any GES springs. It's just the cube and then a little plastic tensioning tool to screw in the nuts like we've seen in all the other GAN cubes so far. My #1 complaint about the 356R is it's just so flexible. Like this is the most flexible morphing cube I've ever seen. You guys have heard me talk about this a lot lately because this was something I brought up with the 354M, where I didn't like how flexible it was and I didn't like how easy it is to morph in your fingers. This has the same problem, but even worse. Now if I start with a perfect cube shape like this and just do some algorithms on this, by the end of it, it's gonna be like just kind of all misshapen. Like you can see that the layers don't stay together and it's just, it kind of morphs in your hands and you can feel it as you're solving with it, that it's kind of moving and shaping itself and it's not that pleasant to solve with. Now, of course, a lot of people are gonna say, oh, that's just because it doesn't have magnets, but that's not true at all because we have like a normal Vulc 3 right here. I can do algorithms on this all day and when I'm done, it's basically a cube shape. Like this is how a magnetless cube should act. Even though it doesn't have magnets, it still stays in a cube shape because that's what it's made to do. And I don't have any problem at all with a Vulc 3 putting algorithms on this thing over and over and over and having it stay basically in a cube. Now, so far you're probably thinking I would give this cube like 1 out of 5 stars because of how much I've complained about it, but it's really not that bad. I think it's just we've been spoiled for this past year and that every 3x3 release that has come out has been fantastic and there's like little tiny nitpicky things wrong with it. Whereas this one, for once, I actually have a problem with it to the point where I don't know if I can use it because I'm just not a huge fan of it. It has a very similar smooth, buttery feeling to the 356X, which is nice. It does have a little bit more of a texture to it, I find, a little bit more of a scratchiness, kind of like the YJ MGC. But it's not really noticeable and it's not an unpleasant feeling, it's just kind of a little bit of a different feeling. The plastic feels equally good quality to the 356X, and the corner cutting is fantastic. So even though it tends to flex and morph in a solve, the corner cutting is so good that it actually doesn't really matter. It is a little unpleasant feeling to solve in your hands because you can kind of feel the layers jumbling around with each other, but it doesn't really stop your solve and it doesn't slow you down because the fantastic corner cutting makes up for it. One thing I did find weird is that the colors are actually different. Here we have the X right here and the R is on the right. Obviously you can see that whites are the same, but the red is much darker on the R, the yellow is a little bit darker on the R, the orange is a little bit darker on the R, the blue is a lot darker on the R, and the green is not really darker or lighter, it's just like a whole different shade of green. It's really interesting to me that the colors are so different considering it feels like it's made out of the same thing and they came out at the same time. Like why does GAN have 2 different sets of stickerless shades? I don't know, you'd have to ask them. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. That being said, I will say I like the 356X's colors a little bit more. These dark colors aren't really great for me, and this is entirely a personal preference thing. This isn't like a complaint or anything. I'm sure you guys have heard me say in past videos, I like to solve just kind of sitting on my couch by lamplight a lot. And so this kind of low light scenario doesn't really do well with dark colors like this. The dark colors all just kind of blend together and it's a little bit hard to see sometimes by lamplight. So stickerless shades I just prefer to be a little brighter, and that's just me. Now this cube, for the price that you buy it at, is pretty okay. From what I've seen in the United States, it's around $15 to $20 depending on the store selling it. And that's a pretty decent price for how this cube performs. However, we're fortunate enough in the cubing industry right now that there are cheap cubes that are better than decent. So for a $15 cube, I would say this is a decent cube, but as of today, there does exist a cube called the YJ MGC, and this is also $15, and it's good. This is a good $15 cube. This is a decent $15 cube. So personally, if you were looking to spend $15 to $20 on a cube, I would definitely recommend the MGC more. They have very similar feelings. They feel kind of thick and smooth, and they have that kind of slightly scratchy texture. However, the MGC is just way more stable. It actually kind of likes to stay in a cube shape because it has those magnets helping it out. And that's just like fantastic for a $15 cube that you can get a nice stable 3x3 with magnets in it. Like I said, this isn't a bad cube. It's just the MGC is just kind of better. So if I had to recommend one, I would say the MGC. However, if you just kind of want to get a GAN cube to see what all the fuss is about, I would say it's worth it. I feel like if you were to take this apart and magnetize it yourself, you could get something close to feeling like a 354M, but a little bit bigger. So if that sounds good to you and you want a kind of flexible magnetized GAN cube, it might be worth picking up the 356R and magnetizing it yourself. But if you're looking for a cube in that 15 to 20 US dollar price range and you just don't really want magnets because maybe you just prefer them to not have magnets, I gotta say I would still recommend the Vault 3 more than this GAN 356R. Even though this came out a long time ago, this is still exactly, in my opinion at least, what a magnetless cube should feel like. It's stable, it's smooth, and it has a nice texture to it. And it doesn't morph as much as a 356R. So even though there are no magnets in it to help with that stability, it still feels really good in your hands while you're solving. Whereas in my opinion, this one feels kind of weird when you're solving. The layers are kind of clicking together. It can kind of get out of shape like this, and it doesn't really want to go back into the shape very easily. I'd just like to reiterate that even though I'm complaining about a lot of things with this cube, it's not a bad cube. It's just, for the sake of a review, you know, I'm gonna be nitpicky. I'm gonna find the little things that I find wrong with it, just so you guys know what to expect. It really is a pretty decent cube, especially for how cheap it is. If you feel like picking it up, I would say it's worth it. I'm gonna put a link in the description below where you can get this cube. Thanks again to D-FantiX for sending this cube to me and letting me review it. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support. It really means the world to me. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you guys next time.